A mere 3 pounds, controlling movement, speech, emotions, chemical balance, and imbalances. It is connected by tissue, neurons, axons, and so much more. What is this thing that sounds like it may be out of a science fiction movie? It is our marvelous human brain. Although I'm not an expert in this area as, let's say, a neurosurgeon, I've read my psychology book and I've done my research, and I think that what I am about to tell you, you will find just as fascinating as I myself have. The brain, although small in size, is humongous in ability and in the job that it has to do. The basic unit of our brain is made up of between 100 to 200 billion neurons. These neurons are what sends the messages from our brains to our bodies. Within these neurons are 3 categories. The first one, afferent neurons, send and receive messages from our body parts, such as our eyes, our ears, our nose, our throat, and even our skin. Afferent neurons communicate with our muscular and glandular systems. And last but not least are the interneurons, which reside within only the central nervous system. Let's start off with the base of the brain. Here we have the medulla, which is responsible for many of our life vitals, such as our breathing, our blood pressure, and our heart rate. But it doesn't just stop there. This region of the brain is also responsible for reflective responses, such as sneezing, coughing, and vomiting. In fact, it is so important that any damage to the medulla can result in immediate death. Right above the region of the medulla is where we have the cerebellum. And in this part of our brain, this is what controls our movements, much like the medulla does. But the cerebellum fine-tunes our movements, specifically the ones that are quick. Let's say, for instance, tennis. When we go to swing the racket and come back, that is a reflective movement. And this is what our cerebellum controls. What I found the most interesting about our brain, though, is the control that it has over our emotions. After my research on the brain, I realized that maybe the saying, "I'm losing my mind," wasn't just an exaggeration after all. Because after learning more about the way that our brain handles our emotions, it almost seems like a separate entity from our bodies, although they work and coincide together. The limbic system of our brain plays the biggest role in our emotions. I also found it interesting that that part of the brain also influences motivation, something that most of us probably never gave much thought to. Which part of our brain does our motivation come from? Something that probably most of us never gave thought to is maybe where our anger comes from. And is it the same place that our pleasure comes from? Well, no, it's not. The limbic system has smaller structures within it that focus on these separate emotions. Another smaller section of the brain that also focuses on emotions is the hypothalamus. This controls just a few of the more important things in our life, which also control emotions, such as our sex drive, our internal thermometer, our eating, and our drinking. These things are not just needed for our survival, but also for our enjoyment. From doing this, as stated earlier, we can see that our minds do much more than just control our movements and allow us to think about what our plans are or what we're going to do. It affects everything in our body. It affects the way we handle stress, how we think, how our thinking affects our emotions, and all of this has to play in with the other parts of our bodies. So it doesn't just take care of us, but it makes us who we are, what we take in and what we put out. To sum it up, our brain is an intricate work of detail and advanced engineering. Whether you believe in evolution, creation, or evolution and creation, I think we can all agree that the brain truly is a miracle.